Why does introing a video always feel so incredibly awkward? I, as you can probably tell from the title of this video, wanted to sit down and do a bit of a Q&A. I've had quite a few messages in my DMs on Instagram about motherhood and business, even clients as well, but a lot of mum questions, and I so get it. I am a type A girl through and through, and I remember when I was pregnant, I was just deep in TikTok research, listening to all of the podcasts, watching the YouTube videos on motherhood, baby sleep, feeding, breastfeeding, and I was so overwhelmed by all of the information out there, and I was like, where do I even start? So I put a question box on my Instagram, and I would be more than happy to do a part 2 if you guys have questions based on this, but I thought I could start here to answer some questions, give some tips, tricks that I've learned along the way. I'm only 10 weeks in, and something I want to preface as well is everyone gets to do motherhood differently. Every baby is so different. And I am going to answer these questions and probably sound quite convicted in this is the thing we're doing and this is my answer, but that's only because that's just my way. There is so many different ways to do things when it comes to how you raise your babies, and there is no right or wrong way. But I just want to preface that I'm not saying that my way is the way, but this is just our experience, what's worked for us. And I'm also mindful too, because I feel like coming into motherhood, I'm always well, who are you to give this advice? You're only 10 weeks in. But I was okay, I'm going to do it whilst I'm fresh. I'm in the experience of it. And this might change and evolve. And it might be different for how I have my second baby, but I'm you know what? This is just what's actually true for me right now in my experience as a first-time mum. Almost 10 weeks in. Tomorrow my baby is 10 weeks old, which is insane. One of the questions actually that was asked is time going slow or fast? And it is going so fucking fast. There's definitely moments where you're just oh my God, this is a lot. But then in the same breath, that saying of the days go slow, the weeks go fast couldn't be more true. Me going back through my camera roll, looking at the photos of my baby a week old, I'm oh my goodness, that feels like forever ago, but it equally feels like yesterday. So there's that. But I have done my preparation. I've gotten all of the questions from the Instagram question box, and I have gone through, written my notes just so that I don't miss anything. I'm really hoping I don't miss anything. If I'm watching this back, I'm fuck, I forgot to mention that. But I'm just going to smash through it. Bob is currently asleep on dad in the carrier, and I feel like he's due to wake up any moment. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be sat here the whole time. I might be feeding, I might be going here, there, and everywhere. So my preface. But first one, top 5 baby products. Definitely a good carrier. I was lucky enough to be sent a carrier from Artipop, which is the top tier carriers, I believe. And I love it. Isaac loves it. It is so good. And now, looking back, I was who would spend $600 to $1,000 on a carrier? Now experiencing the carrier, I'm worth every cent, because the contact naps, walking, him going in the carrier, and it grows with them once they're front facing. You can wear it on your back, such a good investment, and especially if you're going to have multiple babies as well. The Ergo Pouch baby monitor, I personally love. It's not Wi-Fi, so it can't be hacked, doesn't connect to your phone, and I love just being able to have this here. He's not in his bed right now, so I can turn it on. One moment. And it actually tells you the temp and then suggested what to dress them in as well, which I found quite helpful. But so good, has a good night camera, and also just not having to carry your phone everywhere as well. If you just want to have the monitor and see what Bub's up to, and I work on my phone. So handy. I need to not be answering every single question like this, otherwise it's going to be a long video. A 360 spinning car seat so you can spin them to you. A rocking chair, feeding chair. I wasn't going to get one. I'm so glad I did. Ours is from Baby Rest. It's electric, and it also, so it reclines, but it also still rocks when it's reclined, which I didn't realize was a thing that wouldn't happen, but Tori's was telling me yesterday hers doesn't do that. So it's good being reclined and you can still rock. A co-sleeper bassinet. I don't think the brand really matters, but being able to have a bassinet where it drops down on the side and you can attach it to the side of your bed. So good, especially for those early days. And then you can also put the side up. Also a hands-free pump if you are planning on breastfeeding. I would recommend just wait until Bub is here to get one. online orders come literally within a couple of days. You don't need to pump right away. Just make sure that like you actually enjoy breastfeeding, you want to breastfeed. It is quite an investment. I would just start with a Hucker, the one that is a suction pump. It just suctions on. I would put it on one side while you're feeding on the other, and you can collect a fair bit of milk as well. So I would just start with that before having a hands-free pump. A white noise machine, non-negotiable. We've got one that's just portable from Ergo Pouch, and Love to Dream swaddles. Every baby swaddles differently. A lot of them, especially if they're in the scans and they're like this, are probably going to like arms up. Again, I wouldn't get a shit ton. I got so many fucking swaddles, guys. Literally just get one in maybe the newborn size, and then honestly I would just like get the next size up from that. Carter didn't even fit in his newborn swaddle because he was born a bit bigger, like when you actually look at the weights on them. And then also look at the different togs. So if you're having a winter baby, get a 2.5 tog right away. If you're having a summer baby, get a like 1 tog or even a 0.2 tog. That was a mistake I made, was getting like a bunch of 0.2 tog swaddles, but we actually needed warmer swaddles because he was a winter baby, getting the wrong sizes. So they're the two things to keep in mind when you're looking for your swaddles. These aren't products, but a lactation consultant. Mine was actually just from the hospital. She was the midwife doing the home checkup, and she happened to be a lactation consultant. She helped us with his latch on day 3. Like my milk had just come in. Life-changing. I didn't even need the silverettes. I didn't even need nipple balm. Like when they latch properly, and I've heard people speak about this, you actually don't need all of the things. You shouldn't be getting like blistered, cracked, bleeding nipples like I was. In, you know, beyond the second week, really, if their latch is right. Again, I'm no expert, but these are all the things I've learned and now I've experienced. I'm like, wow, that's so worth the investment. We also have a private midwife. I couldn't recommend Michelle from Parents to Be enough. We've only had 2 sessions with her so far. Our first session was in week 2. I'm going to go into this when it comes to baby sleep, but especially because we have a winter baby, we were not dressing him warm enough. She was like, more blankets, more blankets, more blankets. And now he is snug as a bug in a rug and sleeps really well. So there's that. Podcasts or books that I would recommend. Great Birth Rebellion podcast is such a good podcast. I also liked the Mums on Call podcast. They are really known for their really strict schedules, I've since realized, but I still learn a lot from them of just like what you can expect in the first 2 weeks of a newborn, what you can expect from weeks 4 to 8, when to introduce like a bedtime routine. Again, I would kind of just like take what landed for me, leave what I didn't want to apply. Like we don't have a strict schedule in the sense of, you know, he's got a nap at this time. Like we follow his wake windows, which you do for like the first kind of 4 to 6 months, before introducing more of like a schedule, if you will. So what I really learnt from them was like making sure that Bub's feeding in the day, the saying of never wake a sleeping baby unless it's in the day. So babies don't know the difference between night and day. So we would get him up from, if he was still sleeping, like from 7, I would get him up for the day. We'd go outside, see the sunlight, and then make sure I was feeding him every like 2.5 hours pretty well. I would wake him so he could have a feed, so he's getting his calories in the day. So he wasn't, you know, he was getting most of his calories in the day rather than the nighttime, basically. That was what I learned from them, having a good nighttime routine and having that consistent at a consistent time as well, which we do, has made such a big difference. I also liked Dr. Golly's books. He's an Australian pediatrician. Ironically, I read one of his books in one day, the day I actually went into labor, like that night. My waters broke. And again, some good information about swaddling, white noise, basically anything to like calm a baby, as well as basically returning them to the feeling of the womb. So that's why they like baths and the shower for water, the white noise of, you know, the shower running or a white noise machine, a tight swaddle and being nice and warm, and then also suckling as well. So a dummy is really helpful. Another book was the Birth Skills book by Juju someone. I just got it on my Kindle. I quite liked that. There was some things that I definitely pulled on for birth. Then again, like when you're in it, it's just funny. Like I think having the information like unconsciously, you just like know what to pull on and what you want to use. But I think the biggest thing for me was really understanding that the pain that you're going to experience in labor is productive pain and it's a healthy pain and that's a different feeling in your body versus like having your leg chopped off. But looking back when I was in labor, it definitely felt like my leg was being chopped off. So there's that. But definitely recommend. I also did the Thompson method breastfeeding course, super affordable. Really liked the things that I learned, even just understanding like the cascade of interventions when it comes to birth. There were some videos as well where she gave like feedback, so being able to see people breastfeed and then like her adjusting the latch, how to hold baby. I think the biggest thing is baby to breast, not breast to baby, so you're not like getting in these awkward positions and you're really bringing them up. And when you're holding bub, making sure that your hand isn't necessarily touching their nappy, because what I realized, I'll give a demo. What I learned from that course, hello, okay, there we go, is if that your baby's head's here and you're feeding, and if you're holding their nappy, which is actually what feels like the most right thing to do in a cradle kind of hold, but you're actually then like impacting their head, right? Like their chin's going down, and then they're not able to get that full deep latch. So actually putting your hand closer to like the back of their head to support them, and then having something underneath to support, and then they can actually get a latch, and making sure that like their nose is touching and like their chin, and their chin actually helps stimulate the let down. So if that their whole face isn't touching your boob, like it literally will seem like they're like hunk. But if that hasn't happened, it's a too shallow of a latch. So that was really helpful. I'm actually going to just keep this mic here. So like that, I learned a lot from TikTok, just again, took what I wanted to take from that. And I think the biggest thing is really making your own approach and like trialing things with your own baby and what works for you and your family and your different circumstances as well, versus being married to like one specific method. So some people like, I'm just doing, say, like the mums on call method, or I'm just doing, co-sleeping, exclusively breastfeeding, like insert the thing, and there's nothing that's wrong or right. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is not to marry yourself to one approach. Like, it kind of gives like the crunchy mum approach versus, opposite of that. And I want to vaccinate, I want to do this, I want, like, neither is right or wrong. It's just what's right for you, your preferences, your values, your family. So I think that's the biggest thing is like I would take some things from Mums on Call. I'd take some things from, maybe being a bit more like holistic, and like I'm so big on regulating your nervous system, your lights, like just, do you know what I mean? Like I think just making your own approach is the best thing that you can do for you and bub, and because every baby is different as well. Best nursing bras, I went with the Bonds no leak nursing bras. They're not like the best shape necessarily, but I found for like just overnight, that's mainly when I would leak. I swear after a few washes, they're not as good though. I don't know if that's like all leak proof things, but I preferred just like the disposable nursing bras from Kmart. I found really good. I would just chuck them into like whatever top, even just like singlets. They're kind of just a tight singlet. You can just like pop them in, pop your boob out nice and easily for night feeds. What do I wear postpartum? Like right now I'm wearing a jumper like this, and like it's actually so easy to just like pop your arm in, lift, feed. Like you kind of figure out how to make it work, especially once you get comfortable with feeding. But anything like V-neck tops, so nothing like high neck, you're going to be able to feed easily. Even activewear is so good because you can just like activewear singlets, you can just literally pop your boob out, pop it back in. Anything else? I don't think so. I think I kind of did like a closet cull, and I just like popped a bunch of things. I'm like, I'll wear that again. But like for right now, I don't want it in my wardrobe feeling like I have fucking nothing to wear. I don't want to like see it. I just pop it in a tub, or like sell the clothes as well. I'm going to get a thrifter rack actually where I can like sell a bunch of my clothes, because that is like such a good concept. Do I breastfeed and give bottles? Yes, I do. We haven't given him formula. I've had a good supply. I think like being so hydrated, eating well, and understanding that breastfeeding is that supply and demand as well. I've been really lucky with my breastfeeding journey. Something that I learnt with Michelle, our midwife, is that the baby's suckling reflex is the best in the first 6 weeks. So if you do want to introduce a bottle, to do it before then, which I was like, oh, okay. So the mistake we made was like when we tried to introduce the bottle was like when he first woke up and he was like hungry, and he's like learning to take a bottle. He was like, like screaming. We're like, oh my God, he just doesn't take a bottle. What we did was like, I'd just feed him for a bit on the boob, and then like when he'd usually go to change sides, then we'd give him the bottle, I got Isaac to do it. So someone that's not you as the breastfeeding mum to do the bottle. And then it took him some time, but like he still got there. I found like just like pressing on the teat, like so it would spray out a little bit of milk at him. He'd like realize when he was like kind of searching for it, oh, there's milk in this. And now he takes it fine. So yeah, we did that. Introduced, I think maybe in like the second week was when we introduced the bottle. So that was really, really helpful. Sorry, I'm looking back at my notes. We also, if you're interested, gave him the bibs bottles. I like that bibs are glass bottles. You can get them in glass bottles rather. And he takes the bibs dummies. So yeah, and that was what Michelle said as well. Because I was like, oh, is it that he wants like a different bottle teat? She was like, again, if it's given to him in the first 6 weeks, like he'll actually just take what you give him. Like stop, like don't change all the bottles. I was like, oh, cool. Because I have like 5 brands. So there's that. But then other kind of tips that I wanted to chuck in, or things that I found helpful, was expressing colostrum before you give birth. I believe you can start expressing from 36 weeks because it can induce labor. So 36 is when they recommend, and it's like safe to do so. So I had a fair bit of colostrum in syringes. I would just do it like in the bath. I found really helpful for expressing colostrum, like, or putting a heat pack on to get my boobs warm. And then I literally just searched on YouTube, like expressing milk. Because at the start, the way I was doing it was just not right. I was like too far back on my boob. Just like search up a video. It'll be like the first one to come up, and then you kind of like get the hang of it. But it takes so long, especially now, like comparing to milk. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, just syringe that. And what that was really helpful for was when we were in the hospital, he just like fed on me. We didn't actually give him any syringes at the hospital, but having it at home, especially in those first few days, because I think it took me my milk 4 or 5 days to come in, which is like pretty normal, but it was longer than I kind of expected. I was getting so over it because the feeds are so long, because the colostrum's so thick, and they're like learning to feed. The feeds are like 40 minutes to, I think some feeds would go like close to an hour and a half. But for example, I remember there was one time, I think it was like 6 a.m. Isaac got him up, and then Isaac was able to like syringe feed him with the colostrum, so I was able to sleep a bit more. So that was so helpful for that first week. Then this is what Michelle recommended to me with pumping, because I was like, I don't want to create an oversupply, because so many people just pump and pump and pump and pump and pump. So when in the morning is when you have more of your supply. So I would do his first feed of the morning, and then whilst I was like making breakfast or whatever, I'd pop the wearable pumps in for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then pop that in the fridge. And then if he wasn't getting a bottle that day, I would then freeze it in the bags, but take note of how much it is. So let's just say it's 100 ml. Take note of that when you've measured it out in the like bottle, like the breast milk storage, like bottles or just normal bottles. And then write that on the bag. Because when you pour it into the bag, those measuring things are so wrong on the breast milk storage bags. So write the date, and then freeze it flat. So pop it in the freezer flat, and then it will freeze evenly, versus if it was like upright, it'd be like really thick at the bottom and whatnot. And then doing those consistent amounts, say 100 ml, then you can like snap it. So if you need, 150 ml for a bottle, you can get the other half, and then you're not losing 50 ml of breast milk as well. And I think that was it for breastfeeding tips. So many things about sleep. I've posted on my stories a few times, like some screenshots of his Huckleberry, which Huckleberry is such a good app, especially if you are type A. And this is what I mean in the sense that some people are like, you don't need to rely on an app and, trust your motherly instincts. But in the same breath, and like I totally get that, and I've like I'm not doing feeds on Huckleberry anymore, as an example. Basically, for context, Huckleberry, you can track everything. You can track their sleep, their feeds, their nappies. I never did the nappies, tummy time, all of the things. We literally just do it for sleep and breastfeeds. But now I don't do that. I think as of now, I stopped at about like 8.5 weeks, I think, was when I stopped logging the feeds, because I started getting more confident in knowing, okay, he's eating enough, and just like getting a good rhythm with him. But I found it really good to like have that to almost like back up and give me confirmation. And also as well, especially for his wake windows, like an overtired baby, like I mentioned before, is so much harder to put down. They're not happy, they're grizzly, and being more sleep deprived, having so many things to think about with a baby, it's one less thing to think about of going, oh, that was the time he woke up, versus when he wakes up going, okay, shit, it's 10:15. Okay, when's his next wake window? He's probably going to want to go down at about like 11:15. Like, just the app can just remember for me. We can see that he's like gotten enough nap time in a day and whatnot. So I highly recommend that if you're type A. And then, yeah, I was doing feeds at the start. Now I'm not, because I can kind of trust and I know pretty well, like I'll give him his full feed after he wakes up within like the first 10 minutes or something. So I can kind of roughly know when that I fed him last. But yeah, I've circling back around, put my huckleberry sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, Carter slept like 7 hours. Last night he slept almost 12. He hasn't done a 12 stretch yet. He's done like a couple of, I reckon, not even a handful of like 10, 11 hour stretches. So we're very blessed with a good sleeper. So I've had a lot of questions around that. And I do think it's so hard to know, right, what the thing is. But I think, there's so many different babies, but different temperaments, but in the same breath too, I have done so much research. I have been so diligent with, when things and moments might have been like easier to just like contact nap. I've been like, no, you can have a nap in your cot and you can get used to that. Do you know what I mean? But then in the same breath, like I will just take a contact nap. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just so scared of like really contradicting myself, but my point being, I think I've heard like a lot of people be like, you just have such an easy baby. I'm like, yes, but equally because I, regulate my nervous system. I choose to be regulated in moments that I can be really fucking frustrated. I'm like 3 deep breaths and like really working with my partner as a team with him and things like that. And like, we're so diligent with no TVs, the lights go red light. We're diligent with his nighttime routine, just all of the things. So I'm like, that also definitely plays a role also. So yeah, had a lot of questions. But firstly, how do you get him to sleep in the bassinet? I still remember so many moments. I think it was my mum came over, I reckon it was 4 or 5 days postpartum, and she just sat out on the couch and just contact slept with him. That whole night, she literally pulled a fucking all-nighter. I was like, you're a weapon. And because I was like, the only place he sleeps well and like more than 2 hours, like him sleeping, he slept like 2 4-hour stretches on my mum, is like on someone. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to co-sleep? But I didn't want to co-sleep. And I love like that other people do. And when I say co-sleep too, like we had him in the co-sleeper bassinet as well, but not in our bed, because it wasn't safe. Our mattress is way too soft. And also B, we have a dog. It's not safe to co-sleep when you have a animal around. And also because I was having really bad, and I still have them, like night terrors, and I feel like he's in the bed with us and I freak out. Like I just didn't trust myself. Isaac also just didn't trust himself or feel comfortable with it because he's like quite a deep sleeper as well. So that was just like our personal choice. But like, when people are like, oh my God, love co-sleeping, I'm like, I can absolutely see why, and I love that for you. And maybe when he's a bit older and things like that, he might sleep with us, but yeah, that's just our decision and our preference. But yeah, I was like, okay, he needs to be good in the bassinet basically. But my point being, sorry, my fucking baby brain, it doesn't go anywhere. I'm telling you that. Like, I swear your brain is just actually fried post giving birth. But my point being is like, I still had the moments early days where I'm like, he's not fucking sleeping anywhere. Like, what the fuck? But I just found like throughout the day, if I was say brushing my teeth, I just pop him in his bassinet because it was in our room anyway. And he kind of just like sit there, look, I brush my teeth for 5 minutes, pick him up, and we go. So like, I think the exposure to it made a big difference. And then same with like his cot. If I was like putting nappies away or like whatever I was doing, I'd just like pop him there to chill, like as a safe spot for him to sit or lie. So I think that made a big difference, like him just getting comfortable. Something we learnt from Michelle as well is when babies are cold, that's when they're going to scream as well. And even just having like certain mattress protectors that like are really plastic, like that's going to be cold for him as well. So making sure that his bed, I know a lot of people as well recommend like warming up the bassinet, especially for those earlier days, so that they're being transferred to something that's actually warm. We didn't necessarily do that. I'd kind of put a blanket over it, like, and assume the blanket was kind of making it a bit more warm than it being like an open cold mattress that we're putting him down on. But I think that's made the biggest difference for him actually like liking the bassinet. Okay, sleep tips. A is definitely getting calories in the day, so making sure that they're having full feeds versus like these little snack kind of feeds, and like actually having a full feed. Or have one side feed him, he'll kind of come off, we'll do like a rest and digest. Again, learned this from the breastfeeding course. Like on me, like I would actually kind of usually lie, my feet would kind of be like this, and he kind of just like lie like this, or still hold him for a little bit, try and burp him, just like sit him up, honestly, or put him on my shoulder for like 5 minutes. Or from the other side, sometimes he takes it, sometimes he doesn't, but really offering that full feed. Like I mentioned too, the moment he wakes up, within 10 minutes, I'm offering him that feed. So then his rhythm is feed, play, sleep. Another thing I learned from like the mums on call side of things. So then he doesn't have his sleep association of feeding to sleep. Sometimes though, like I will feed him to sleep, usually like that last feed of the night, like his bedtime routine. If he falls asleep, I'm like, sick. Don't have to put him down. But so I'm not married to, oh my God, like you've got to play or whatever it is. But I think that makes a big difference as well, is like he knows how to settle without the boob. So sometimes I think with babies' sleep cycles, I didn't realize is they can't actually connect their sleep cycles, so they need help. So they'll kind of somewhat wake, or they appear to be awake as they're transitioning between different cycles as well. So sometimes like he can be like, I can be watching the monitor and his eyes will be open, he'll be kind of like fussing around, I'll like leave him for a couple minutes because he's not crying, and then he puts himself back to sleep. So I think that as well, like not getting them up in those points when they're not like actually waking, sometimes offering the dummy as well. But yeah, he doesn't need the boob to settle himself. Like he'll settle with a dummy, some padding, some shushing, rocking, whatever it might be. And I can really tell now, I'm like, if he's actually hungry. And when he wakes in the middle of the night now, I know he's waking because he's actually hungry. Like I can just, you do have your motherly instincts of just knowing as well. And with that too, once they have hit their birth weight and like get your doctor's approval and whatever you want to do, and they are putting on weight well, you don't have to wake them in the middle of the night for feeds, which I also didn't realize until I was in it. But he was back at his birth weight within like 3 days. Men's ate well. But I think his first like overnight stretch is technically 6 hours, and that was maybe at 6 weeks. I think he did that, 6 or 7 weeks. So yeah, you don't have to wake them like every 2 hours of a night. Sleep is the point that I'm making. And then yeah, sometimes he would like fuss in the night and I would offer him his dummy, and sometimes he'd go back to sleep for another hour as an example, and then he would wake and be like, no, you're hungry now, and then give him a feed. Consistent bedtime routine. Someone asked me what the bedtime routine was. I want something that is simple, that we can maintain really easily, and that we can do from anywhere. So my parents always showered me and my brother. I have a brother who's 8 years younger than me, so I was quite alert to the world and with it when that they, you know, had him. So I was kind of across babies to a certain degree. I can't really remember much from when I was 8, but that's what I remember. And yeah, he loved the shower, so I was like, cool, let's shower with Carter. And that just seems so much easier than like running a bath, or if we are somewhere, I'm like, oh my God, his bath, like whatever it might be. So every night, his last kind of nap of the day is anywhere from like 3 to 4 o'clock. And then depending on how long the nap is when he wakes up, we're kind of starting his bedtime routine from like 4:30 to 5:30, anywhere from that kind of window. He'll be awake for like 15 or so. Then we'll get him in the shower. So I don't feed him once he wakes up from that last nap. We'll get him in the shower with me or dad. And it's such a nice bonding experience for dad and bub as well, like skin on skin. And Carter just loves it so much. Like he's so relaxed in there. Even yesterday he was like quite fussy. I was like, let's just get him in the shower, showered, relaxed. I moisturize him, do a bit of like a baby massage, like on his tummy, like in the direction of his digestive system, clockwise, I think it is. And he just like loves, like he just lays there and he's like getting his massage. It's the cutest thing ever. And nappy, outfit on, I'll feed him. Lately I've been doing lying feeding, which I just love so much. Like I just lie in bed next to him, he just feeds. And then once he's finished on that side, we'll do a nappy change, we'll read a book, maybe depending on the time as well. Like, you know, does he need to go down faster or slower? Like yesterday, I was like, we've still got like 45 minutes before he's actually going to be tired enough to go to sleep. So read him a few books and just like, we do it in the same room. So our bathroom, our bedroom, because he sleeps in our room with us in his bassinet. So I literally don't let him exit the room, basically. Like that's where we'll do all the nappy changes and things like that, or like put his outfit on. So I'm not like walking around the house and then there's like, happens to be a bright light on, or like Isaac's cooking in the kitchen or whatever it might be. It's just in the room. And then change nappy, feed. If he's pooped again, we'll change his nappy and then put him down. Sometimes he falls asleep on my boob, especially now that I'm fly feeding him. And he's like there with his little hands, and then I've got to transfer him. But that's our nighttime routine, and we can literally do it anywhere. We actually went down to the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago. We could do it, you know, there. Isaac was actually out still playing golf with the boys, and I was like, nighttime routine, and I was still able to do it myself, because it's easy to like get in the shower with them and all of the things. So that is our nighttime routine, and yep, we're really diligent with the same time, and then he's going down at the same time every night. So anywhere between that 6 to 7 p.m. mark, just again, depending on when he woke from his nap. Like we're not married to like the strict times, but that's just the times it tends to fall in. And it's so interesting now, he's like starting to wake up at that consistent time as well, of anywhere from 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning, as well, even no matter what time he's woken up for a feed, if it's 2 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever. Any other things? Oh, and then having like the same sleep association, so his white noise machine, and his swaddle as well for his naps in a bassinet. There was a point too in his pram, like in his pram bassinet, I would literally bring a swaddle with us, because I was like, cool, he's going to fall asleep. Like once he's in that thing, he knows it's sleep time. And you can swaddle them up until they start showing signs of rolling as well. Another thing that's made a huge difference, the saying, cold babies cry, hot babies die, freaked me the fuck out, to the point that I was definitely freezing my child. I made a TikTok on this, and so many people were like, cool, I'm 8 months in and I've been freezing my baby. And again, every baby's different, but I thought like if I felt him and he was warm, I was like, oh my God, hot babies died, like thinking he would die. And my midwife told me, she was like, no, Taylor, there's a difference between him being like clammy and sweaty, and I have a hairy baby. His head of hair, she's like, you will know if he's hot because he will be sweaty on his hair, and like he's not going to die in that moment. I was like, oh. She was like, these goddamn sayings. She was like, your baby again needs to be warm. And the way, the contrast example she gave to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm the worst mum ever. She was like, okay, Taylor, so you're in bed, what are you wearing in the room? And I think it was like 22 degrees was the night before. She like gave me the example. I was like, okay, it was 22 degrees in our room last night. She was like, okay, cool. What were you wearing? I was like, pajamas. And she's like, and you were in bed with a doona on? I was like, yeah. She's like, and you're next to Isaac. And I was like, yeah. She was like, cool. So Isaac's body heat, your doona's about 17 tog, plus you've got your pajamas on, and babies need a layer more than you. I was like, huh. She's like, what did you dress him in? And I was like, a singlet, a long sleeve onesie, and his one tog Love to Dream swaddle. She was like, yeah, he's freezing. She's like, he needs another swaddle, like a blanket kind of like swaddle, and then a blanket folded 4 times over, like half and then half again, tucked into the sides. And I was like, but they can't have blankets, they suffocate. And she was like, no, if you put him at the bottom of the bassinet, and again, check with your health professionals, I'm not a fucking sleep consultant, I'm not a midwife, but I'm just repeating what she told us. If he's at the bottom of the bassinet, tuck it in on 3 sides, so the sides and the bottom, tuck it in nice and tight, he's not going anywhere. The only way he can move is wriggling upwards, not downwards, because his feet are at the bottom of the bassinet. And also we changed mattress protectors, so it wasn't one that was like a super plasticky mattress protector. Now he's warm and he sleeps well. The poor darling was so cold. So there was those times in the middle of the night when he'd wake up and fuss, and then the instant he was on me, he would almost settle again, and he wasn't even really hungry, or he would try and feed, but it was this like this pathetic 5-minute feed. Like it wasn't a full feed. I was like, are you even hungry? It was actually just my body heat and warmth. Makes sense. So that's what we did, and now we can just really trust by like, we'll feel don't feel their head, feel like their chest or the back of their neck. So even last night, the temp like started getting a bit colder by the time we went to bed. So then added another blanket, tucked it in. And the biggest thing she said is just not using like the synthetic, you know, like those fluffy kind of blankets, not using those because that's bad for temperature control. So we use like the knitted wool or like bamboo blankets, baby blankets, and then really tuck them into the side. So now he's got the same thing, a singlet, a long sleeve, a thicker swaddle, so a 2.5 swaddle. And then even last night, like there were thick blankets because our room was like 19 or 18 degrees. Obviously, if you are having a summer baby as well, that's different. And I don't know what to do when it comes to like, you know, swaddles and things like that. I would imagine that it would maybe just be like a one tog swaddle. Again, depends on your room temp, but then every room temp is different. Sometimes some nights we're like, it's saying 22 on the thermometer, but it's like, it's definitely way colder tonight. So we'll kind of go off our feeling in that sense and feel him. And again, this is that other part too with like motherly instincts. Like you just also know, like there's been some moments I just like wake up, I'm like, go check on him and like add another blanket because he's feeling colder. Like you just know. And someone actually asked me yesterday, she's like, did you get the owlet sock? And I would say I've had some postpartum anxiety. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily anything massive, but I've definitely been a lot more anxious. And then especially when he was first born, super, super, super anxious with him, like feeling like he was going to die all of the time. So it is anxiety, especially as a first-time mum as well. And I said to her, I was like, look, I was contemplating it, but I also didn't want to outsource everything to this like little device. And I know some people also, you know, feel differently where they're like, nope, that saved my child's life. But his room sharing with us, and I really just like trust, like he has been in me for 9 months. I'm so connected, and just mums are just so connected, and I don't want to lose that connection based on all of this technology. And I was looking in as well, even Dr. Golly, who's a pediatrician, he was kind of saying the same as well, like, no, you don't need it. I think just having like hearing professionals say it too, of like, you don't need that, I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think that's everything on sleep. Oh my God, I've been talking for so long. And I think the other thing as well is just them getting comfortable being independent. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, and for context too, technically all of these things I've been implementing is actually sleep training by the book. And I think a lot of people think sleep training is, you know, putting them in their cot, shutting the door, letting them cry it out. Like I have never let him cry and scream. Like, no, like of course there's moments where I'm like, I'm coming, you know, like me peeing and then he's like woken up from a nap. I'm like, I'm coming. But yeah, I've never done that. And I think that's what people think sleep training is, where it's like, no, it's just implementing some really good habits and making your baby feel really safe in their sleep space and safe being able to lie on their play mat and play their little kick piano for 5 minutes. So I think that's the other thing too, is sometimes Carter can be like fussing and be like, meh, meh. But a lot of the time it's like him finding his voice, like that's different to like him actually being unsettled. And again, as a mum, you just know. And I think not picking them up every single time just because they're like, you know, having a fuss as well. And again, you do you, and also you just know your baby. You know when that they're like not okay. And there's moments sometimes too that he might be fussing on someone. I'm like, give me my baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, I don't want him, even if he's just fussing on you, like I want my baby. So it's just really trusting yourself in that. Anything else? Yeah, following wake windows I think is the biggest thing, and understanding that. I feel like that's it, mainly. Bedtime routine, I covered that. Someone asked postpartum essentials, definitely a peri bottle, especially if you are having a vaginal birth. But in the same breath, this is where you go to like buy so many things that it's like, I saw someone, I'd already bought my peri bottle. And for anyone that doesn't know, that's just something that you can fill up with water to wash your hoo-ha, because you've been stitched and all of the things. Then again, I feel like I only used it for like a week, and then I was like, I'm good to use toilet paper. But someone was like, just get like a squirt water bottle, like a pump water bottle that you can like fill with water and you can just spray. And I was like, God, we spend so much money on unnecessary shit. With that, I got like the postpartum underwear. I honestly don't really think you need it. I would get a postpartum belly band, like that helped a lot. For like postpartum, I think I might even use it for training and stuff to really just like engage my core. But honestly, like high-waisted leggings or like gym shorts, if you have them, they work the exact same way pretty well. So I would just use those. My pelvic floor physio even just like recommended that. I think I got like 4 pairs of postpartum underwear, and then because I got a size medium, I was a size small by like 2 weeks postpartum. Couldn't even wear them beyond that because they were too loose anyway. Other thing that's so unnecessary is the postpartum carts. Tori and I were saying this the other day, like so unnecessary. So unnecessary. You're not gonna be wheeling shit around. Even the nappy caddies. My nappy caddy that I got, it's in my car, like is my car nappy caddy. Like there's just so much shit that you don't need to get. And my biggest piece of advice, if you're pregnant, you're currently like shopping around for like, what did I get? Just get an Amazon Prime subscription so that you get free delivery and it pretty much comes the next day or the day after. There's going to be things that once you're in it, you're like, oh, I need this, oh, I need that. I need some saline nose spray because they're getting a nose blocked. Your partner can go to the chemist down the road. Like the way I kind of thought, like I was doomsday prepping. Like the amount of nappies I had, I got way too many newborn nappies because he was born at just shy of 4 kilos. So then he's, you know, outgrew his newborn nappies within like 2 weeks, I swear to God, and because he weighed a lot. So he would leak through. Once we got the bigger size, he was fine. So I had literally 2 boxes of newborn nappies. Like that's my advice, is you will just buy things as you need them. And yeah, the carts, so unnecessary, truly, so unnecessary. The things I would get is a belly band, like I mentioned. I would just get like large maternity pads versus the nappies. I got a size medium in the nappies, and they were so tight on me, like so tight on the sides. And I know a lot of people that have had that experience. So I would just get them, and then you can just wear them with your normal underwear, wear your high-waisted things. Recommend that. Like you don't need that many nappies. A good water bottle with a straw, like a 1 liter insulated water bottle with a straw, so that you're not having to tip. Like it's good for breastfeeding. Electrolytes, like get plenty of electrolytes and coconut waters, and then protein snacks, anything that you can have one-handed, and that goes for meal prep as well. So I found some good breakfasts, even making like a big thing of like a quiche slice almost. You can just have that one-handed. That's high protein. I'm loving like my oats, my morning protein oats, protein balls. I love like the Bavita biscuits, protein bars. They're really good. Frozen meals and meal prep. And if anyone asks you what to get, honestly that. And if people ask you what to get for the baby, like the amount of stuffed toys I have, it's so annoying. Like please just bring me a meal. Please just bring me a meal. Or I highly recommend open up like a savings account for Bub, or like a savings jar or something like that, and just say like, hey, we're doing that. Like I would love you to contribute to that for his future. Makes the biggest difference. And or being able to then have a bigger kind of pool of cash, if you will, to then get, you know, a baby rocker or like the bigger ticket items as well, versus having a bunch of like stuffed animals that you don't use. Other thing I would definitely invest in is some good like postpartum like loungewear, and things that you can wear at home. And other thing as well, like I highly recommend like getting out of the house as soon as you possible. Like I was so anxious about like, oh my God, what if we leave and then he's screaming in the car, or I've got to feed him, or we've got to change his nappy. You will just figure it out and get it done. But I'm so glad that like we were literally, our TV broke 10 days postpartum. I was in a TV store. He was screaming. Because he was hungry. He was tired, I think. I don't even know. He was screaming. He'd peed himself and it leaked through his clothes into the pram as well. And then I had to like leave. Isaac was still dealing with like the shop assistant guy. I was like, I've got to go. I go and find the parents' room for the first time. I change his nappy, change his outfit, fed him in there. Then he'd done a massive poo, changed it. Like it was just chaos. And then he screamed the whole way home. Like you just figure it out. And I think just creating that evidence, like, oh my God, I can do it. And doing it, especially if your partner is taking time off work, do it with someone at that stage, and you'll feel so much more confident going out as well, even if it's just walks outside and whatnot. Something else I recommend is huckleberry, which I mentioned before. Actually, I don't even need to go into that because I mentioned it before. So I just had it as a note of like something I'd recommend. Another question is, how would I approach baby number 2's birth? Something that I wish Isaac and I had is like almost a bit of a word, or like a safe word for birth, because I said to him, I was like, do not fucking let me get the epidural. And I remember begging for it at 7 a.m. And he was like, no. And I'm glad I didn't get it at that point in time. Like I definitely had more to give. And then at 1 p.m. And like I was progressing and I was doing it. By 1 p.m. I was just fucking, I was like, I've got nothing left. And then they're like, get in the shower again. I was in the shower just fucking dying. But I just wish that we just like had something of me being like, no, I fucking mean it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's something I wish I took into birth, but definitely having a birth plan is so necessary. I think that's the only reason why I was able to have a vaginal delivery, is because that's what I had as my preference. And then when I got wheeled into theatre, obviously it was an emergency C-section. That wasn't in the plan, and then his heart rate stabilized, and the only reason that they didn't drop it, they were dropping it down to a category 2 emergency C-section, but they gave me the option if I wanted the C-section because they knew I wanted a vaginal delivery, which I just love and appreciate so much that they respected that. And I had that in my birth plan, and they all knew that because I actually read my birth plan and preferences. So yeah, just highly recommend that. And having like the right people that you want in your birth room and environment. Couldn't recommend that enough for birth. But to answer the question for how would I approach it, I honestly think, and I might change my mind of potentially going for unmedicated next time around and like doing all of the things, but I genuinely think now too, and this is one of those things where you can't make a decision on something until you're actually in it. Like I said to Isaac, I was like, I just don't understand why people would get an epidural. I don't understand why people would get induced and then just get an epidural. Like, that's so fucked up. And, you know, the opioids go through to the baby, which they do. But yeah, I think now just going through all of that, I'm so glad that I tried to do an unmedicated birth. I honestly think now with how I feel, I would rather just have my waters break or like, you know, go into spontaneous labor. And I think I would probably just opt for the epidural as soon as possible. That's honestly just the vibe. I saw Molly May's like second birth, and yeah, she's like, I think she got induced, had the epidural, and she's like, and then, you know, I was fully dilated, and then they said push, and I pushed, and it was great. And I'm like, I think that's the birth I want this time around. Like, that's just, I am also 10 weeks postpartum, so it might change, but yeah, I think that's what I would do. And I would love to have my mum there this time. I know for the first, I really just wanted to like be in the zone and have Tanika, my doula, have Isaac. I really wish now in hindsight, the moment that I had gotten the epidural, that I wished I just asked mum to come. I don't know why I didn't. I just wanted to keep like the opinions on birth and all of the things, and like mum had an elective C-section, which like love that for her, but I was like, I just really wanted an unmedicated birth, so I wanted people that were really there, that were going to like hold me to that. Where even I was talking to mum, she's like, I would have let you get the epidural at 7 a.m, which like in hindsight probably would have been a good thing. But yeah, I definitely would love to have my mum there the next time as well. And I feel like me coming into motherhood, mum and I have just become so much more like close and connected as well. But as I was talking about the birth plan, I might even just quickly touch on what I had in the birth plan. I actually think I've got it here on my Canva, which I can just pull up. That's going to be an easier way to do it. Could not be loaded. Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm going to try and just remember, but I think the biggest thing is, rather than it being a plan that you're married to and it's like, this has to be the way, having it as a roadmap or a birth kind of map, and more just like your preferences more than anything. So perfect example is, if there does need to be intervention, what intervention are you happy with? So for me, I preferred vacuum delivery versus forceps. I ended up having a vacuum delivery. So if I didn't have that in there, you know, I would have preferred to not have an episiotomy. I didn't have to have an episiotomy. If in the event that I had a emergency C-section, I still wanted delayed cord clamping and skin on skin as fast as possible. I wanted dad to cut the cord, as in Isaac, my partner, not my dad, to cut the cord. So it was just like, okay, if that it kind of goes in these different directions, what preferences do you want? I opted for no students. I opted for the least amount of cervical checks. I actually didn't have to get any cervical checks on arrival and things like that. I got a cervical check at 7 a.m. because I just wanted, like, I actually kind of opted for that just to see how I was progressing. My reasoning for that was just so I didn't have 1,000,001 people rummaging through me, which I ended up having once the labor kind of got a bit more high risk with bub and whatnot anyway. But I'm glad I didn't have that from the start. And also, I just didn't want to be disheartened by how I was progressing. I didn't want to get into hospital and only be 1 centimeter dilated if I'd been laboring at home for 10 hours. But with the nature of my waters breaking, there being meconium, I had to go in pretty quickly anyway. So I didn't get a cervical check till, would have been like 8 hours after, at least 8 hours after we were in hospital anyway, which I was really happy with. But then I did feel super disheartened when it was 4 centimeters. So there's that. But yeah, like no students, no unnecessary people having to come into the room for decisions to be kind of put through Tanika, my doula, and my partner before me, because I didn't want to be taken out of like being in labor, which they respected until it got to the point that it was just like, all right, you've got to be taken in for an emergency C-section. But I think just if you can plan for all of the things that could go wrong, if you can just have your preferences, that's how you're going to have a birth that feels really, really empowering. I know for myself, it could have been very much like a traumatic birth if I didn't do the preparation around birth, understanding the interventions, understanding that if I had an epidural that I would have to have synthetic oxytocin. Like if I didn't research and understand those things, I probably would have been traumatized of why are you putting things in me and, you know, yada yada. So it was good being able to have those preferences, understand, you know, the vitamin K injection when it, you know, you would get it when you wouldn't necessarily have to have it as much, like just all of the things. Like again, do your own research on it, but I think if you can just prepare for the worst, it's always going, and not in the sense of I'm gonna have a bad birth, but having preferences in your birth plan of what you'd prefer in that to make it the birth that you want, I think is, yeah, so special. And I genuinely think I would have had a C-section if I didn't have that birth plan. And it was just so type A of me. Like we get to the hospital and she's like, have you got a birth plan? I'm like literally having contractions, I'm in labor, and I'm like, yep, right here. And they all really respected it. And I think that's another thing too. Whilst I didn't have this experience, but the hospital we have here is incredible. I went through public because you have to have private healthcare at least 12 months prior, and it wasn't a planned pregnancy. So there was no point changing our private health. And also there is still a decent excess when you go through private as well. So we just opted for public. Again, we didn't really have a choice. But our public hospital here, my point being is I would still go public because it's such an incredible hospital here. On the sunny coast. And I know, speaking to Tori, she looked at like I think it was the Gold Coast hospital and then the Tweed one, and she preferred Tweed, and then she ended up having to go to hospital for her birth. She was going to do a home birth, and the point I'm making is her like having that hospital preference, she was then able to have a good hospital as well to support her birth. So I think that's massive, as well as like researching the hospital. Definitely do the visits as well. You can do like birth suite tours. Highly recommend. Like I'm so glad that the first time I entered the hospital wasn't, or like the birth suite wasn't when I was giving birth, because I'd be like, oh my god, new environment. Like I felt familiar with it. Bub did have decreased movements at 34 weeks where we had to go into the birth suite anyway. Everything was fine, but yeah, they're my things to prepare for birth as well. I could speak about this for so long. It has been 50 minutes. What do you actually mean? But if you have other questions for me, I'd be more than happy to do a part 2. But if you're watching this and you're pregnant currently, I'm so excited for you to go into this next chapter, especially if you're a first time mum like myself. It is honestly the most incredible experience, and regardless, like birth will bring its challenges, but I think within that you come out the other side, like you just meet the strongest version of yourself, and it's just the most magical experience. Like I could cry thinking about it, and I'm just so excited for you. And yeah, I just love this so much. I love talking about birth, babies, all of the things, and I never thought I'd be that person. So I hope you got some good value out of this. Again, if you've got any questions, let me know. If you liked this, if you enjoyed it, let me know. But I'm going to stop talking because it's literally been 54 minutes. So if you made it to this point, you're a trooper. See ya, love you, and I will catch you in the next video.